Hello, this class will be a brief class focusing on balance, shooting for 30 minutes or under, and hopefully gets a little bit of core abdominal work and some movement throughout the whole body, even as we do focus on balance. So get yourself seated. Sit in a position that is comfortable for you so you can sit tall. Let your eyes close. Relax your jaw, relax the shoulders. And we'll chant one round of Om together. Take a breath in. Lift the chest and bow the head. Release the hands, lift the head and open the eyes. So we'll start on hands and knees. If you have a hard surface like I do, you might appreciate having a blanket down for your knees. If you're on carpeting, then you're probably comfortable as is. Be kneeling. Knees and feet about hip width apart, hands about shoulder width apart. Straighten the arms, and we'll start with some basic cat-cow movement. Toes can be turned under or tucked, whichever you prefer today. Start to pull the pubic bone toward the navel. Pull the navel toward the spine. Pull the sternum in away from the skin. Tuck the chin, look back toward your own belly button. Push the arms and roll the biceps in. And then start to lift the tailbone, keep the navel in, push the sternum forward toward the chest and pull the sternum up toward the throat. Turn the biceps out, lift the chin, look up, shoulder blades down, and then tuck the tailbone. And going back and forth a few times, you can find your own natural tempo. Keep the abdomen engaged, so that even as you extend the front body, the abdomen doesn't sort of come loose or be forgotten. And feel also that range of motion that you can get by including the upper arms and shoulders in the cat-cow movement. And then come to a neutral position with the spine and extend the right leg back, pushing the ball of the foot down into the floor so that you can get a good sense of pressing the ball of the foot from the heel toward the foot, toward the toes, shin away from the floor. Firm the musculature around the knee. So the back of the knee pushes toward the kneecap and the kneecap resists back. Pull the right kneecap away from the shin toward the pelvis direction. Good. Release. Switch sides. Kneeling on the right knee, left leg back. Push from the left foot from the heel toward the toes. Shin away from the floor, femur away from the floor. Firm the left kneecap. Pubic bone just slightly toward the navel. Roll the biceps apart. Good. Release. Switch again. Right leg back. Push the toes down into the floor. Shin away from the floor. Femur away from the floor. Firm the knee. Pubic bone toward the navel so you start to get some of that abdominal stability. Extend the left arm forward and roll the bicep away from your face direction. And if you can, just float the right foot off the floor. Minimally. Keep pushing through the right hand. Keep the navel coming toward the spine so that the lifting of the back leg doesn't cause the lumbar spine to go into a sway. Bring the foot down, hand down, release. Extend the left leg back, push the toes toward the floor, shin and femur away from the floor. Tailbone toward the pubic bone toward the navel, navel toward the spine. Extend the right arm forward and turn the whole upper arm so the thumb faces up like a hitchhiker. And then float the left foot off the floor without bending the leg. Keep bringing the sides of the waist away from the floor. Navel in, long neck, and then toes down, legs straight, arm down, release. Come onto your forearms and knees. We'll do plank on the forearms. Step your legs back. If being in full plank feels like too much, be on your knees and be pleased and proud of yourself. We need to erase the bad feelings we have about doing these poses on with our knees down. It's a very valid way to practice. Knees down or knees up. Push your forearms into the floor. Push your wrists, like where your watch band would be, into the floor. Pull the elbows toward the toes and the pubic bone toward the navel. Make the neck long. Legs strong and firm if they're straight. If the knees are down, push the knees down. Good, and then release. Rest for a moment. We'll do plank again with the arms straight. If your wrists are tired from that hands and knees work, then you can repeat again on your forearms. As you noticed, it's good, clean fun on the forearms. Otherwise, come to a hands and knees position. Arms are straight. And again, you can do this on the knees, and this is a great way to make the weight and the intensity more approachable, more acceptable. So if this feels better, then do this. It's great. Truly. If you can, and if you want to, it feels appropriate, do it with the legs straight. Now push the arms into the floor. Turn the biceps away from each other. Like you did with the back leg, push both balls of the feet toward the floor. Shins away from the floor. Firm the kneecaps. Pubic bone toward the navel. Navel toward the spine. Lift the waistline toward the ceiling. Push with the hands. Good. Release. Rest for a moment. And we'll come to downward facing dog. And again, if the wrists are tired, you could also do dolphin pose on the forearms. That's a fine variation. I usually find that because the arms are at such a steep angle in downward dog that it's a different kind of pressure on the wrists, and for my wrists it's usually okay, but that's almost certainly not a universal truth. Turn the toes under, lift the knees up and back, downward facing dog. And then walk your hands back toward the feet. Extend out over the legs, let the back of the neck be long. Hands to the hips, bend the knees. Chest forward, hips back, and lift up. Now just set your blanket aside. We will use it again, so set it aside. And for a moment, you can have your feet right together. You could have the feet a bit apart. I think, especially for the focus of balance, if it feels better for you to have your feet a little bit apart, try working with the block between the legs, because that contact between the legs keeps some unified sense of purpose and cohesion between the legs. If the legs are together, they connect with each other and they get contact in the same way. So either with the block between your knees, feet apart, or with the legs together. Extend your arms out straight in front. I'll turn sideways. You're fine as you are. Now, draw the belly in, lift the chest. Turn the biceps away from each other so the palms turn slightly up like you're holding a beach ball in front of you. Start to push down through the balls of the feet. Lift the belly in and up. Lift the chest up. Now keep lifting the pelvic floor. Keep lifting the chest. Lower the heels back down. Push down to get up. and lift up to lower with control. So strengthening the muscles in the legs, ankles, feet, but also learning to manage the traffic flow. Lift up, lift up, lift up through the kneecaps, through the arches, through the pelvic floor, through the pubic bone on your way down. And push down, shoulder blades down, tailbone down, balls of the feet down to come up. So that our movements are very controlled, very steady. Good, and then release. It's such a simple action, but actually you can often find that you're quite unsteady, especially without that extra amount of concentration. A little bit of more focus on pushing down and lifting up often helps me feel so much more stable in that action. Now tree pose. Bend, standing on the left leg, bend the right leg, turn the right knee out. Right away, often this hip will start to shoot out, so suck your left hip in, and you can bring your heel to your ankle, your calf, however high up it wants to come. Bring the knee slightly forward, bring your pubic bone toward the standing leg, and up toward the navel in. Think of all those actions we did pushing. You could even bring your hands out in front, push like plank. See if you can bring the sides of the waist and the navel back. Energize the toes of your standing foot forward. Now keep turning the pubic bone toward the standing leg and open your knee out more to the side. Push the outside edge of your right foot into your standing leg. You can hold on to something. You can have hands at the heart, arms overhead. Push down, lift up. Good, and then releasing. Switching sides, standing on the left leg. Turn the right toes out. And again, watch for this tendency that can happen for the hips to sort of shoot out. Bring that right outer buttocks in and bring your foot up as high as it's willing to come comfortably. For starters, let the knee come a little bit forward and get the rest of your bearing. Stand through your standing leg, lift your kneecap. Pubic bone toward the standing leg, pubic bone up, navel in, sides of the waist slightly back. You can even push your hands forward like plank. Pull the heels of the hands a little bit down so you can get that abdominal area engaged. And then press the outer edge of the left foot into your standing leg. Open the knee. Hands as you wish on your hips, at your heart, or up overhead. Feeling the steadiness that you can create in the midsection. Feeling the memory of plank pose to build you some muscularity and some stability. Muscles are, of course, important for action, but they're also critical for stabilizing. Good, and then release the arms down, release the foot, and rest for a moment. We're going to do just a little sort of diversionary action. This is a little thing I learned on the internet where you move the foot around like a clock. So put a little bend in the knees and extend your right foot forward. So now it's at 12 o'clock. Move it to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock rock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. How far can you go? 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, back. 9 o'clock is probably a realistic maximum. And then back to the center. Switching sides, bending the knees. Hop your foot around the clock face. Probably 8 might be your max, 9 might be your max, and then hop your way back. So learning to stabilize the muscles along the way, and then coming back to the center and releasing. Now, I'm going to do tree pose again, but we're going to make it harder. So one way or another, you will make it harder. You can do any one of the following things. I'll show you all these options. We have a blanket, a bolster, a block. They all start with B. We're standing on something a little bit more unstable. So the first is to stand on a blanket. Find your way to your tree pose. And here what you'll just find is that the blanket is that little bit more smooshy. And because it's more smooshy, your standing ankle wobbles more. So you might be less ambitious with the hands. You might keep that plank action, pushing the hands forward. See if you can keep the navel in, sides of the waist back. Another option is to stand on a bolster, which is very similar, but I would say harder because it's, you see, more unstable. The good thing about tree pose is it's a good posture. It's a safe posture to experiment with bringing your hands away from the wall, because if you feel unsteady, all you do is bring your foot down. So it's a pretty safe pose in that regard. See, I just did it. Keep this outer gluteal area strong. Navel in. Keep thinking of that plank action of pushing the hands forward, heels of the hands a little bit down. Navel in and up, long neck. And then, of course, lastly, you can do this on a block. The block is more firm, but it's higher, and that little bit of height makes your whole body just pay attention in a different way. Pubic bone in, sides of the waist back, push the hands out in front, think of plank position. Everything but the bent leg should feel so similar to plank, with your standing leg energized from the heel toward the toes, pubic bone toward the navel, sides of the waistline back, shoulder biceps away from each other, shoulder blades down, neck up, and then release. So these are all fun ways to I hope it's fun, ways to work with challenging balance. And there's one last thing that we can do, which is closing the eyes. This is actually so hard in a balancing pose. So we'll do tree pose again, but let's do a little bit less. So maybe even start with your toes on the floor, heel on the shin. If you love balancing and you don't feel apprehensive at all, fine, bring the leg higher. But if you feel apprehension, keep the toe tips on the floor. Hands on the hips. If it makes you feel better to be near a wall in the case of an emergency, fine. Grip the outer hips, pubic bone up, bring the hands forward like plank, push forward, shoulder blades down, pubic bone up, navel in, and then bring your hands to your hips. See if you can close your eyes. And part of this is learning to trust the corrective movements of the body and not problem solve always with the intellect. Good, release. Second side, standing on the opposite leg, turn your foot out. You can have toes down. Of course you can do leg higher if that's fun for you. Hands forward, push like plank. Heels of the hands down away from the fingertips. Navel in, pubic bone up. And then hands to your hips. Get your bearings and see if you can close the eyes. And just feel and trust the corrective wobbles. Feel the muscles that engage to kick in, to catch you. And then open the eyes and release. Take your blanket, which is hopefully nearby. Step your feet about a little wider than hip width apart. Balls of the feet up on the blanket, heels apart, and hinging forward. And you can let the knees bend, of course. Let the back of the neck be long. Standing forward bend, Uttanasana, with that little bit extra stretch in the calves. Sometimes it's even nice to take one hand and sort of gently hold the back of your neck and place the other hand there. And just gently let the weight of the arms create a slight amount of traction for the neck. Whether the legs are bent or straight, lift the kneecaps. Lift the inner knee toward the inner thigh. Relax your jaw. And then release the hands, bend the knees, and roll yourself up. And clear your mat. And we'll do a quick downward dog to clear the palate. Turn the biceps toward the ceiling. Lift the kneecaps, lift the femurs, lift the shins, and press the shins back, femurs back, outer hips back, upper inner thighs up and back. And then release and come to child's pose, big toes close together. Fold your forearms, rest your forehead on your forearms. Relax the breath. And feel the proximity to the earth, especially after being, or to the ground, especially after being balancing, being unstable. Let yourself appreciate this stability here. And then roll yourself up. Come up to sitting, and we'll find our way into Shavasana. And if you like to have something under your head, behind your knees, make your Shavasana cozy for yourself. Make sure the palms turn up. Turn from the pinky side of the hand toward the thumb side of the hand to help open the chest. Tongue down away from the roof of the mouth. Be in Shavasana. If you're comfortable here, you can stay here, or you can take a deeper breath. Let the arms bend, rest your hands on your chest or your abdomen. Let your knees bend. Roll to your side. Press yourself up, let the head be the last thing up. And we'll end with 3 rounds of Om. Thank you for practicing. Enjoy the rest of your day.